Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You're at the spot, the place, where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Did you bring your thinking caps? It's time to put them on, because the conversation starts now. Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. How are you today? You're back at the spot, the place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Returning to the show is Allison AJ Cutts. Her show went through the roof, Brains, because we were talking about cyber security. She is a cybersecurity expert. She's worked, that's been her zone of genius forever. And now we're going to take it a little bit further and talk about how we can protect our children. And I use the word protect very gingerly because, our kids are going to get into some stuff just like they got into the food, they get into drugs, alcohol, sex, all of that. But what we can do with an eagle eye view and just kind of scope it out, some of the situations that young people that she knows have run across, some situations that I've heard of that we can try to alleviate and pay closer attention to. We give these kids in the grocery store a device to distract them while we're picking produce. It's not necessarily a good thing. So we need to be on it. We need to be on it. And we need to ring the bell. All right. So let's bring Allison on, and we're going to talk about cybersecurity for young adults. And you know what, some seniors adults too, because they're getting tricked up and a whole lot more. Let's welcome her to the show. How you doing, Allison?
Hi, April. Thank you so much for having me back on your show. I'm excited to be here. And I can give a little intro if you want, just so if anyone missed the first episode we did back
Please.
in June, I think it was. So, hi, my name is Allison Cutts. I also go by AJ. I have been in the technology field for over 25 years. And back in 2019, I personally experienced a cyber crime myself during a big transition in my life. I was going through a divorce, I had a sick child, and I was out of work for the first time in my career. So I learned a lot from that experience. I went through some additional schooling. And what I learned is most cyber crimes happen with the perfect storm, three elements. I had those three elements. I had stress from a divorce, a sick child, and out of work. So my guards were down. So I was the perfect candidate to experience the crime. So on today's topic, April and I spoke about how do we share information to how to protect our families. And I grew up without technology in my home. I entered the technology industry in 96, early on in the internet and all the technology waves. And I always, as I raised my children, I reflected back to what my own parents did. We didn't have, internet, we didn't have computers at our home.
Mhm.
And it was really the first crucial step for any parent is early communication around online digital safety. And I was fortunate to be in the technology arena. So our children, as they started using devices or going on TikTok or playing Roblox, we were able to safeguard them to a degree, meaning we set up their security settings high on their settings within the applications. We set up two-factor authentication. So if someone logged in that wasn't them, we got the message.
Okay.
And the last thing is we taught our kids pretty early on that they should only connect with their friends and not strangers.
Mhm.
And because I remember our parents don't talk to strangers growing up,
Right.
danger stranger. And I think in the digital world, that's a lot harder for teenagers, preteens, and even young adults because they've grown up with the digital tools. They feel safe with people they probably should not. So
Right.
that was one of the key elements. But
But
I can go through many.
it's the imposter syndrome. People are predators, and predators spend 18 hours a day trying to figure out how to groom young minds. And they can pretend to be somebody that they're not. And our children have, because they're so innocent and naive, they give their school location, where they play, who their friends are, maybe even their address. And then you've got the ones that lure them away. I'm gonna give you two situations. One was very personal, it was my daughter. And I knew there was something strange about this person that she was connecting with. I never figured out, if it was an adult or if it was an actual teenager, but I didn't like it. And I kept warning her and warning her, took the phone away. And then I go to the school to pick her up one day, and I go into the computer lab, and who's online with this stranger? Well, I went nuts. Maybe that wasn't the best thing to do, but I tell you, it got her mind right. Okay. And then we blocked it. We absolutely blocked it. If your
Yeah.
child is being entertained, because I'm telling you, it's something about words. When you are reading what someone says, you're enticed. You're trying to pay attention. You're trying to create an ambiance, an atmosphere, maybe what this person looks like, what they feel like, and then what they're saying to you. They're grooming you. They're saying just what you want them to hear and just the voices that you want to hear. And don't be a person or a child that is maybe a little bit lower in self esteem, maybe looking for love, maybe vulnerable, maybe promiscuous. You never know. I heard that they're even able to buy these drugs online now and they'll deliver them to the house. So there's a lot of stuff going on. That was with my daughter. No drugs or nothing, but whoever that person was, believe and trust, they're not there now. The second thing, a horrible thing, was another one of my friends got groomed into human trafficking and would pick her up after school at the McDonald's, and they got her into prostitution. Then she ran away. Then it was drug abuse. Then defiant against her parents. It snowballed into one thing after another. Or the violence, these video games that these kids are into. And I don't want to call out any particular thing, but they really are dangerous. What are some of the things that you're hearing, seeing, and addressing?
You know, with talking with my daughter and a couple of her friends, a lot of the children, like, it was really interesting. My children were pretty good at following the rules of communicating only with their friends. However, if they were playing a game like Roblox, right, they would play with other kids, but they were taught at a young age about language and how people are talking back and forth in the messaging. So my youngest, especially, she loves video games. She said if anyone's rude, I block them. So she blocks people and she doesn't accept new friend requests unless they're people she's met in her school. So I was fortunate. A lot of the early education we did has helped her. And I said to her, well, what if someone reached out to you online? Because she's going into high school now. So she's still young, but she's old enough to know better. I said, did you ever ask someone what they look like visually? Could they turn on their camera? Because if that was a true predator, they would probably show up as an adult, right?
Right.
But, so she knows what to ask of the people on the other end, but she also knows not to share, like you said, don't show your address, your school, how old you are, even your name. She has a different profile picture of her with a different screen name that has nothing to do with her. So I'm fortunate that she's taken those measures. And then I interviewed a couple of her friends to say, hey, have you experienced anything online? And one of her friends said she had a friend convince them to go into just some group chat application. It wasn't like a game. And she received a picture of a male body part. So yeah, yeah. And she's 13 years old. And so we think of back in the day when we had magazines. The quickest way you could find a picture of a body part is under your brother's bed in a magazine, right? Now it's streaming real time. So
Right.
and like you said, the sophistication of the tools with AI, especially chatbots, someone who may not even be from this country could actually type into a chatbot what to write back to a teenager and sound like a kid, right? Communicating back and forth with their age group. So a lot of these kids believe that who they're talking to is authentic, but they have no proof, right? They have no idea who's
No
on the other
idea.
end.
And you
And
know what's scary too is the things that they're saying, the things that they're doing, the manipulation, but also the cyberbullying.
mhm.
I don't know. I'm a scrapper.
Me too, April.
Yeah, I sock you in the throat. Really, you wouldn't go take my lunch money and do all that stuff to me. No,
They knew not to mess with
like,
you.
absolutely. But psychologically, I just cannot believe how these kids are just destroyed by the gossip and how quick it's spreads. I was watching a Netflix show, Gossip Girl,
Yep.
and I just really didn't realize and how detrimental this is. They talk about your look, or everybody's got a camera. So,
Mm-hmm.
you'll fall on your face and everybody's got a picture of it, or you're getting a little loose at a party, everybody's got a picture of it. And let me tell you something, brains, young brains, it's not always sexy to be recorded naked, okay? And to show your body parts. Because when your parents get a piece of that, it's on and popping. Or their colleagues at work, or the pastor at the church. Your life can be forever destroyed. Now, you've got some celebrities out there that have done it, and it's turned their life, into
Yeah.
gold. But that is not what you want. To be
No.
modest is one of the most sexiest thing you can do. It's the allure. It is the questionability. It's the sexiness of what's under that. All of these sex texting and all that kind of stuff. To me, it makes me nauseous. I wouldn't want to see somebody's unmentionables, like that.
No, I
That's
mean,
not,
listen,
not
when her friend shared that, she's young. She's maybe a year older than my daughter now. She was young when that happened. And my first response was, "Did you ever tell your mom?" And she said, "No." Right. So that's where, and I said, "Well, did your mom and dad sit down and teach you about safety being online?" And she said, "No." So when you really look at early intervention, even if you start when they're going into middle school, I mean, it's hard at each stage, no
elementary
matter.
school.
Well,
Elementary school.
listen, my little one can airdrop at 28 months old Michael Bublé to our TV. Like she
Wow.
memorized, yeah. So she, not that we gave her devices that often, but so we started early. So it's helped us through that journey. I mean, there's technology that parents can use to monitor texts and websites and so forth in my family because we did a lot of that verbal education, but we also reinforce and check in. I believe in the old fashioned sneak attack. If their doors are closed, I just walk in so I can see what they're doing on
Girl,
their
please.
device. And listen, they're very honest because they know their devices will be taken away. And then even when the doors close, if I hear them laughing, I know it's positive. And then later that night, if we sit down and watch a TV show together, I'm like, "Oh, I heard you laughing. Were you playing with friends?" So
Mm.
then I slowly kind of unravel and keep that kind of alive in the home about who are you talking to online. Now, listen, there's telltale signs psychologically. There's a lot of, there's two things. One, you could get a highly introverted kid who doesn't have a lot of friends at school, who doesn't play sports. His parents work, both parents work in the home, right? So they're the modern day, I call latchkey kids, but they're not latchkey, they're internet key kids from
Right,
my perspective.
right, right,
So you have someone who's kind of introverted and wanting some type of human connection. Those are the kids that are probably more at risk because if they don't have a big network to talk to someone about what they're experiencing, they kind of keep that information to themselves. And they're at different ages when that happens. So, really checking in with your kids' facial expressions, like my oldest going through high school, she had a couple of rough spells. I could hear her on her phone talking to friends. Snapchat, they follow each other everywhere. So they stalk themselves, but in a friendly way. But if you're ever outside that circle, you feel left out, right? So, like you said, when we grew up, you could confront somebody at the lunch table. They wouldn't like, and now what you have is you have a whole world, not just your school, like you said, the community beyond you, the world. And you get someone who's not psychologically right, and then they start bullying other kids online and their parents have no idea that's even harder because it's much broader. It's not like contained in your cafeteria. Now it's everywhere. So it's really hard. You get passive behavior
you're
um
you're better
on
than
the
me
internet.
because you listen at the door. Baby, I open up the backpack. I will pick up the phone.
Oh
I
yeah.
want to know the password. My husband and I have been married 41 years, and he has my password and I have his.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not about that.
No, and I have the
One
passwords
of
to
her
my kids.
friends, my daughter's
Yeah.
37 years old. One of her friends told her the other day I was controlling. Because the situation happened and I took control. Well, either you're in control or you're out of control.
Yeah.
And if her parents had a little bit more control, she wouldn't be as unhappy as she is. I don't control my daughter, but I
No.
control the situation. If I'm paying for the phone bill, I'm going to look at it. Privacy.
Yeah.
Privacy is like respect. It has to be earned. And
Yeah.
once I trust you and I see that you're responsible, then I'm gonna let the line out a little bit more. You can go out with your friends. You can hang out instead of 10 o'clock. You can be out to 12 o'clock. But that has to be a part of parenting. Everybody's different. But this
Yeah.
is how I run it here.
Yeah,
Also,
I do think both my kids, all of their devices, their father and I have access to their
that's
phones.
right.
We know what their security settings are, and I know you love the password manager I always keep talking about, but every account that's set up, we set a very complex password so they won't remember it, but it reduces a breach on a lot of their apps because a lot of them don't know how to deal with like fraud. Because as they get to their teen years, they get people reaching out for their social, for banking, and they're still like my daughter's just off at college. She's just learning that side right now. So really teaching them how each stage of life you have to kind of continuously educate yourself on how to stay safe. And, I think with your point earlier about cyberbullying, it really starts with the parents working with the kids constantly around how they're writing themselves. Like, I'll give you a really basic example. My daughter, she was probably like 10 or like between 9 and 10, and she had a friend she had it out with. She had a beef with her on her device, and I was at least close enough to the mother. The mother had reached out to me saying, "Hey, here's a screenshot of what Peyton said to my daughter." So I sat down with her in that moment. And I'm like, you can't type like that online. Let's next time you feel upset, let's work through words so you can still get your point across. But I said what you wrote was hurtful. So I made her pick up the phone and call the girl. Right now, not every parent is around when that happens, and not every other parent on the other side of these younger children even know that's happening. So it's really building that awareness and consideration of whatever you're writing or whatever you're posting, like you said, pictures everywhere. Would you want that done to you? Right? Would you want your body shot all over the internet without you even knowing, or you in a bad moment if you're out at a party as a teenager getting sick, right? There's so many things that are detrimental, and it's a digital footprint. It's permanent. It's out there forever. You can't take it back. It's so different, you know?
And I'm telling you, and this goes for older people too. I had another one of my guests, bless her heart. She got tricked up in one of these online relationships. They got $300,000 out of her in 3 months.
Oh,
And
it's very,
I said, Carol, what were they saying to you, kitten? What was he saying? Did you see him? Well, no. But this is what
poor
she
thing.
said. She said, he played my favorite songs. Well,
Yeah.
once upon a time, didn't he ask you who was your favorite artist? What was your favorite song? And he said that he was going to send me my favorite flowers. Did you ever receive them? Did you ever see a picture of him? Did you ever FaceTime with him or Zoom with him? She says no. And his MO was, well, I need to go and see my mother.
Yep.
Then when I get there, I need to get a visa. And then I'm going to work, but I need to get some equipment. Can you do this? And she's just writing these checks, writing these checks. And
Oh,
I said, well, what is it? And she says, well, I just wanted to be loved. Well, you don't love me by me writing you a check.
I know.
So
And
you, you
that's
have
true.
to
It's
pay
happening
attention.
more and more. Yeah.
Absolutely, you got to pay attention. You've got to second guess. I
Yeah.
want to know your blood type, your mama's name, her address, the whole shebang. Never
Well,
saw them, and come to find out, it was two or three Nigerian guys that spoke great German in a coffee shop in Nigeria, and they traced it down to the point where they were shipping cars with that money over to
yeah.
Nigeria with her. And so again, older people can get caught up too. It's about paying attention. You're an
Yeah.
expert at cybersecurity. You know, uh, we talked about in our last interview the fraud, the
Yeah.
manipulation, how people will set up accounts, how you have this double authentication, which I find annoying, but then it's a safety factor. All of
Yep.
these things are so important. And again, people are different now. They find love different kind of ways. I need to see you, touch you, sniff you, see if you pass the
Well,
sniff test, all that stuff before I'm ready to be intimate with you. But these not now, not
well,
now.
think of that. That was an adult, like your friend, right? Imagine being a young child, whether like even in middle school, socially kind of outcasted or ostracized, or even a teenager or a young person going to college. Their brains aren't even fully developed. So you think of imagine your friend who went through that through the dating app and had money stolen. Imagine being a young child, a teenager, someone who's not as socially accepted within their own local community. Their brain's not developed to understand that. So the only way we could protect our children is always building a bridge with them to have open communication with us. Now, not every child has parents they can talk to. So it's like I've even taught my kids, sometimes kids are afraid to talk to their parents, but if you hear something, share it with me and we could figure out how they can get help because sometimes they can go through the school, route with psychologists as well to help them, especially around bullying. Bullying is a big thing with, middle school and high school age kids. So it's really understanding who's doing it and why. But like that young group, they would be taken easily from like a predator, right? They don't have those skills. And I'm sorry that happened to your friend.
Yeah, me too. And I was like, and she was afraid and ashamed to tell her family because her husband, her first husband that died, left her a boatload of money, but he was very controlling.
Yeah.
And so she was determined not to be controlled again.
Yeah.
So you're not controlled, now you're manipulated.
Yeah. Well, and she's probably learning later in life healthy boundaries. That's hard too, even as an adult. I can appreciate her wanting to be loved, especially she had a tough, long marriage before he passed. And it's very common. And that's where a lot of those scams happen with the older adult community, well, even my age group. I hear it all the time. If you can't see someone, meet them locally, they're not real. And if they are real, they're looking for angles for you to send them money. It's very common.
And you'll see him that, and let me give you a quick tip on Facebook. He's always a pilot in the military or he's a doctor. He's always got certain photos of him, and all of the people that he's friends with are females.
Yep.
Don't see a lot of interaction. I'm telling you, that's a key indicator. Watch for that. Oh, sweetheart. Uh, no, my name's April. We don't go, sweetheart. I immediately block because, again, they're trolls. They're watching you.
Yeah.
And they're going to ask you questions and you're going to answer them because you're engaging in dialogue. But also, what I want to share and want to talk about is safety.
Yep.
These kids are posting some stuff that they're going to threaten to do at the school, harm someone, harm themselves. Please, please, parents, instill in your children that if you hear something, say something. Nobody wants to be the rat. I get it, but nobody wants to be harmed either. And then they look back and they say, wow, I should have said something. So, again, there's a tactful way of saying things, but build a mode of trust with your child.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't have to be,
Exactly.
you don't have to roll up in the school gangster like, like I did, but we don't have that problem anymore.
No.
You know,
No, it's so different now. The intelligence level of all these kids and even young adults is I lived in Denver when Columbine happened.
mhm.
And I grew up in Connecticut near Sandy Hook. So you can imagine those two school situations were just heartbreaking. And, when they go back and interview the community, there's always something that's being said that people have witnessed, adults and other teenagers or children, that everyone was because people are busy, right? So like, oh, it's not my problem, but it really is. It's really is a community effort because I even tell my kids if someone's acting off, like, because you even have kids who are suicidal that their parents don't even know. Like, you could be a kid that knows about stuff online that's happening to a student or a peer, even if you're not close to them. Like, there's so many protective measures we can build in our kids just to open up and even share with us if they feel safe, and it's, the online, community of stuff, there's a lot going on that, I think kids are getting isolated more and more with the technology.
Well, here in California, our governor has just implemented that you can't have your phone on in the classroom unless it is a classroom activity. No, you
Yep.
may be able to have your phone on in between classes, but to me, I don't think that. If it's an emergency or you're trying to contact your parent, other than that, that food should be put away. I mean, that food. I'm thinking about snacks. That phone, that phone should be put away. There's no need for you to be talking. And you know what annoys me? And I had to get on a couple young people that I knew. I'm in the car and they're texting to one another and not communicating with me. And then we go into the restaurant and they take the phone. See, I'm from the old school. I'm paying for this time, for your attention, for your conversation. Put the phone away. That goes for me, for my husband. When we are interacting, I still want to interact. And so many parents are allowing their children to be distracted. And then you know what? Sometimes parents want them to be distracted because they don't want to be bothered with them.
Yeah.
But when I go into the grocery store and I watched, I go in the commissary, so I'm going up and down every aisle, and I'm seeing this baby with this cell phone, maybe 4 years old. Why don't you teach them about the vegetables? Why don't you teach them about the sugar-free, fat-free preservatives? Why don't you pick out something that they might like to eat? No engagement. I know that they're busy, but see, that's a parenting. Parenting
Yeah.
is stepping
It
outside
starts
of
really
yourself.
early.
It
Yeah.
starts really early. You can't
Yeah.
re-raise a 15 or 16-year-old. At
Yep.
that point, they're already ingrained in what's going on in the world, and it's ever changing. This AI, it's a beast because
Yeah.
I'm looking at all of these, and I know you've probably seen them, all these little baby things where they are imposing images of celebrities and they're talking as if they're babies. I think it's genius, it's entertaining, but I'm saying if they can manipulate that and the mouths are moving in synchronicity to the words that they're saying, and someone else had said them, it's it's incredible what they can do now.
Well, it's going to get even more interesting, especially with AI and chatbots. And there was an article I read recently. It was really interesting. There's and I'll have to give you her name, Shawnee. She came from the military, but she's big into the cyber safety space. And she had posted, just some stats. Like, and I don't know if you like stats or not, but
Yeah.
they're saying 23% of children that use AI chatbots use it for advice, right? A lot of that's because they don't know who to turn to for advice, right? And then you have 35% feel that they're conversing with a friend. So, and it's even higher vulnerability with children that don't have friends. So they're chatting with a chatbot because they don't have that human, one on one. And then, they resort to getting information, but they don't want to talk to anyone else about it. So, as like you said, as AI machine learning and these chatbots and visuals get more human-like, it's going to open up doors not only in like the business world but in the personal side of scamming, right? Because you don't even need to have a human to trick a child anymore or an adult, right? It will sound so real you won't even realize it's not human. It's all computer driven. So when you
But one of
think of
my
that,
coaches, yeah, but one of my coaches is working with the emotional intelligence side of it and
yeah,
the mental health side of it.
yeah,
I was talking to her about it, and she said, you know what? It will be great for people that are introverted, isolated,
yeah,
at the brink, that they would be able to go in and use artificial intelligence, put certain prompts in, and get certain results.
yeah.
This is just where the world is. I mean, we used to see science fiction movies, and we would never have thought in a million years that we would be living in it. And it is going so fast. And there's
And
there's so many contributors from all over the world. We had a big kerfuffle during the election that we had, people from foreign countries that were trying to uh, influence what's going on in the election. And then you have,
yeah.
the perception of real news and fake news. Now you don't know what's real and what's false.
And you know what? With AI, it's going to be amazing what we're going to see moving forward in a positive way. And I just think as we go through that and evolve with AI, as I go as a human, um, we also have to teach our children those skills as well, even if we don't even know what they are yet, I think it's more of being like, listen, my kids will laugh sometimes, right? They know not to click on a link, right? That was more of like different generations, but they also don't realize how exposing personal information is. You just can't give it out to the world. So I think there's a, benefit on both sides. We can learn even from our own kids in a way, right? Like I sent a video of a cute dog helping another dog jump over a wall. My daughter's like, Mom, that's AI generated. And I'm like, I'm like, but it was cute. Like, but they
Right.
can tell, like they know a lot, but it's teach them just to be open, right? And I always think of situational awareness because of my own cybercrime. I was very aware of all the things not to do as well. I had all the tools in place to protect me, but the psychological impact and me rushing and not slowing down was my biggest detriment to me. Just like your friend who lost $300,000, she just wanted to be loved, and she wanted to believe there was a nice person on the other side of that phone or on the other side of the chat, and she was less lonely, and so they will play on that. And the more we can teach our kids situational awareness, because that piece has kind of come down quite a bit. Like, like April, we joked about it the last time. We had to run to a telephone booth for help. We had to have enough quarters to call our parents. We
Right.
had to know which neighborhoods were safe or not. And that was all before the internet. So I think the children of today, their guards are down because it's not that scary to them yet. But if they don't learn situational awareness around them and the psychology of it, they will be at risk at some point. But I think they can reduce their risk by, parents early on, if they can, open up communication, just like you did with your daughter, just like I do with mine, with my little sneak attacks in their bedroom. But I also look at their facial expressions. The other thing in my home, my girls are into art. So when I went through my transition of divorce, my daughters both like to draw and paint. So I could see what their artwork looked like because I'm into art as well. So I could see like a happy art picture to a really dark one. So then it gave me room to like not over interpret it, but I'd say, oh, like, what does this mean? Because I was thinking the worst. And then sometimes it was bad, and then sometimes it wasn't. So it's like always keeping line of communication open. No matter how much time we don't think we have enough time at the end of the day.
And as parents, as adults, do the deep dive. Look at your own stuff. Own your own stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can't facilitate or coordinate with your child if you're a mixed
If
bag
you're
of
not doing the same thing.
okay. It's like waking up. As soon as you wake up, you grab the device. As soon as you go to pee, you got the phone with you. Give your brain an opportunity to go from beta to theta. Give it a minute. Wake up, enjoy the day, be grateful, get your coffee. Whatever happened in those 6, 7 hours, if you got that much sleep, uh, is not going to impact your world that
Yeah.
much. Say good morning to your children, gives them screen time. Allow them to do whatever it is they do, but turn off the device. Encourage
Yeah.
them to go outside, do the bugs. If they're 15 or 16, get them in the kitchen with you to cook. Take them on vacation. I've got a friend right now that's on vacation, and their kids get screen time. Well, what she did is a whole gap year. They're traveling around. They didn't go to school. They're going to homeschool through a mobile home, and all that.
Yeah.
But the whole year, but they got screen time. And then they have to read, but then they enjoy nature. They have conversations. They take a nap.
Yeah.
We cannot be so ingrained in the device. I'm telling you, it's a part of the distraction brains. It's great to know how to do it. It's great to invest in it and make some money, but don't let a machine run you. You still got to have some common sense.
Yeah.
You still
And
have to have some common sense.
listen, I have friends, girlfriends, and they're on their devices just as much as their kids. Because I'm in technology and on the computer during the day, and my kids will tell you they'll see my phone down quite a bit on my personal time because I've done enough screen time myself. Now, am I perfect? No, I don't think anybody is.
Oh,
But, and by the way, like we talked about knowing what's on our kids' phones, my kids can log into my phone. I have nothing to hide. You can look through my full chat chain. You could go on my Facebook. You can go on my LinkedIn. I'm very careful about what I post. So how am I going to teach my kids to be responsible if I'm not? So it's really kind of an opportunity to be open. Not that every kid needs to have every parent's password, by the way. But they like I really have nothing to hide. So at the end of the day, like if they need to get in to, do something for me, like read a text when I'm driving to me, that's usually why they do it. But, I think putting the devices down, having open conversations, and even just bring up the new technology as a topic, not even like to scare them, saying, hey, what do you think of AI? Or what do you think of XYZ? Because they have a different lens. And then if you hear something that might be a flag, you can coach them without scaring them of what some, building healthy boundaries around it. Because I don't think anyone's going to do it perfectly. And listen, there's software applications where parents could hover over everything, but the verbal is probably the strongest from my lens, knowing that's where I started early on, but I came from high tech, so it was a little bit easier to understand the risks. But I think it's important for no matter where you are with your child and even through the journey or whatever they've been through, you can speak about it at any time. And really, the more you have open communication and then re educate as newer technologies come out. And even sometimes they like to teach me stuff, right? So it's like being open is
And be
huge.
careful what you text. People will try to get you tricked up. They don't get me tricked up in emails and texts and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna have a conversation with you because there's a paper trail and it never goes away. Believe and trust. You see all of these Senate hearings and this, that, and the other. What they doing? They going back and getting the text messages. They're going back and reading the emails. Be careful what you put in print. Be careful. Be careful what you snap a picture of, or snap,
Yep.
or you let people snap pictures of you because everywhere you go, and I'm quick to tell somebody, no, we're not recording that, or no, put your camera down, or do this. If
Yep.
I ask people, can I record this? I'll be
Yeah.
somewhere at an event, and I'll say, is it okay if I record you? You know, you need to ask permission.
Permission. Yeah, absolutely.
You have to ask permission, and that's the right thing to do. And even with your children, I know there was a situation in the NFL that one of the teams was going to draft during the draft was going to draft one of the players, and his son got into the phone and made a prank call to the prospective uh, candidate, and it wasn't even him, and it was a big joke. Well, it wasn't a big joke when the father got fined $100,000, and I think he lost his job. So
Yeah.
you have to be careful about, even your own information that you have on the phone. Men, you some of the biggest knuckleheads. I love y'all, but how does your woman always catch you? Your phone.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you done forgot to delete the text, or you done deleted too. You don't have no text messages in there. Where's the photographs? Why is there a password? Why is this? Why is that? You know, this is what technology does. It can be pro, it can be con, but when it comes to our children, we really need to have an eagle eye on that. Have that conversation with them. If you have to take the device, you have to confiscate the device. They're not going to die from it. They may be angry, but I would rather for my child to be angry for them to be abused or hurt. Tell them a little bit about your upcoming book that you have and how to get in contact with you, Allison
oh,
AJ.
sure. So I'm in the process of recording my audiobook. The first one I'm going to release is Cyber Safety for Single Moms and Five Healthy Habits. So I'm in the middle of that right now, like I shared with you earlier, April. And then shortly after that, I'm going to do some other generational launches of a similar book, but like for the boomers, different age categories, along with just overall cyber safety that anyone can learn at any level. But I think one of the most important things is kind of like what we spoke about today. We have to all understand how we use digital technology and how we can apply that education and continuously update our kids and educate them. And also keep open line of communication because, like you mentioned, the stories early on, April, are very real. The sex trafficking story, your daughter talking to a stranger on the internet. My kids have played games with strangers, but not except they haven't spoken to them. But we really nailed it into their heads quite a bit about stranger danger. But my goal of the books is to continue to get education out there, how to build simple things, because a lot of people think in order to be cyber safe, you have to be an engineer or technical, and that's absolutely not true at all. So my goal is to help educate and protect others. Just like I went through a cyber crime with all the knowledge of technology, it's very easy. And I truly believe it's a more of a psychological approach than it is a technology approach, meaning with these AI machine learning and computers eventually going to be messaging all of us, right? Text or email. They know the psychology of us based on what we've posted online, what we've shared through social media, what we've responded to. Like you said, even a simple answer, the first question, like a lot of the stuff gets like stored, and then there's new ways and new approaches to come after the general
The
public.
cookies, everything is got cookies. I will click on something and I say, oh, that's kind of cute. Next thing I know, there's 15 different ads for that particular product or a similar product. To
Yeah.
They have you down to a science. When you go in and you're scanning your phone for a discount at the big box store, you best believe they've got access to all your information because now it's just you've created a digital footprint.
Yep.
That's what it is right now. And so many people, and I know and I respect what you do, AJ, but there's no getting away from it. There's no getting away from it
There's
because
not.
there's some content out there about each and every one of us. And it is getting more and more. So you have to figure out really what's going to be detrimental to you. And if you can avoid that, you know, then do
Yep.
that. The sex texting, the extramarital affairs, the arguing back and forth, the cussing people out, the
Hmm.
videotape and everything, because your information can be hauled into court and then you be considered an accessory to a crime. Don't think that just because you have the tape, it's okay.
Yeah.
You just seen some of these big trials that went on that people have been videotaped,
Without
so
permission. Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And,
Privacy laws.
absolutely. And then they say,
Yeah.
oh, well, you didn't get my permission. Well, it's too late now. I got
Yeah.
you covered. So again,
Well,
be careful
yeah,
what you do. And
absolutely. No, and thank you. And once I get the book launched, so other ways people can reach out to me, I have Cyber Safe with AJ on YouTube. My podcast recordings, I'm starting with interviews. I had my first one about a couple weeks ago. I'm doing some more. My time is split between educating the corporate side because that's a lot of my background, but then I'll be doing more individual. I'm going to hopefully have another interview coming up with a psychologist and an education promoter around cyber safety for children as well. So that can be found on audio as well, similar to how you have your podcast. And
so what
I
is it?
have
What is the name of it? How do we find it? We just look under
so if you type in cyber safe with AJ, you'll find me on Spotify. Like when I start launching it, I've already done one out there. So I go through all the mainstream podcast channels that are audio. And then on YouTube, if they want visuals, I have video up there as well. And then
perfect.
I'll be doing free content and education there as well, like small, like reels of information to help the general public.
Okay, and that'd be good. And even start a subscription service because with this ever evolving, for parents to
Yeah.
go in and get 3 modules of information every
Yep.
quarter, you can't go wrong because things
No,
are changing and this is your zone of genius. Thank you so much, AJ, for coming back here on the Edge. Brains, go in and check your kid's phone. Check yours too. I'm not telling you, have a conversation with them. Just sit there and say, can I see your phone for a minute? That's it. You don't have to go through a whole lot of stuff because you are the parent. They are the child. Now, if you have a different relationship, I don't know about that, but I'm the head, not the tail. So I encourage you to do the best that you can to protect them, to teach them to protect themselves. This is not just for their adolescence. This is a lifelong learning. This is
yep.
just one element of safety. When they get out in the streets, it's going to be another element of safety. And that's what we're here to do, protect and serve. Thank you so much, AJ. Brains, go in, love, like, share, and subscribe. Yes, those numbers are looking great. Love,
Thank you for having
like,
me.
share, and subscribe. I will always have you because you are on the cutting edge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anytime. And like it's really us teaching our children human behavior and how to be safe. And those are life skills that they can take anywhere throughout life around human decency for themselves and for others on how things are, and then also how to protect themselves because they're exposed to it just as much as we are as adults. And we need to help be by their side and continue education, but honestly, open communication so it feels safe because they're going to see something that we probably wouldn't even guess,
Right.
you know?
And it's a trust factor. And
Yeah.
again, like I said, trust is like respect. It has to be earned. And just
Yeah.
because you're someone's parent, that doesn't mean that they necessarily trust you or respect you. So build that relationship as best you can. Thank you so much, AJ. You're a rock star. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.